The first sound was almost imperceptible, a soft, strangled grunt beneath the dense acacia trees. Amir had been walking along the dry riverbed, scanning the ground for fresh tracks, when the subtle rustle caught his attention. At first, he thought it might be a small animal, a warthog or a jackal, disturbed by the afternoon heat. But the rhythm of the struggle, measured and tense, suggested something far more dangerous. Through the tall, sun-bleached grass, he glimpsed a golden flank, trembling with effort. A young lion, caught in the tight coils of a python, was twisting and straining, his claws scraping the earth. The snake's body was sleek and powerful, coiled around the lion's torso with a precision born of instinct. The lion's breaths were rapid, uneven, almost silent. It did not roar, did not fight violently, only a quiet, desperate struggle, each movement hinting at exhaustion and fear. The savanna itself seemed to pause. The wind dropped, birds fell silent, and the distant hum of insects faded into an uneasy stillness. Amir crouched low, careful not to draw sudden attention. His pulse quickened, but he kept his movements slow, deliberate. He could not allow panic to reach the lion, nor provoke the python into striking. "Easy, easy, it's all right," he whispered under his breath, stepping closer. The lion's amber eyes flicked toward him, wide and wary, scanning the figure before him. There was neither aggression nor submission, only recognition of another presence, a possibility of help or a threat to avoid. Amir surveyed the situation. The python's coils were tight, but its head had a slight slack, a sign of fatigue. He could create space without direct confrontation. He found a sturdy branch nearby, thick and firm, and approached carefully, sliding it between the snake and the lion. The lion flinched, muscles tensing, then relaxed fractionally as pressure was relieved. Amir's heart pounded, every second counted. Minutes passed like hours. The lion twisted, testing the slack in the coils. The python, sensing less resistance, eased slightly, its body shifting with serpentine grace. Amir worked slowly, inserting the branch further, pressing gently at the right points, giving the lion leverage to move. Finally, with a combination of patient nudging and careful leverage, the python uncoiled. It slithered silently into the brush, leaving the lion panting, chest rising and falling in shallow waves. Amir knelt beside the animal, letting his hands hover, only touching gently to reassure. "You're safe now, it's okay." The lion's eyes softened marginally, and after a long pause, he lowered himself fully to the ground, legs trembling but relaxed. The tension in his body slowly ebbed, muscles unwinding, tail flicking lightly in relief. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the dusty earth. Dust swirled in the quiet air, stirred by the faint breeze. Amir stayed a few moments longer, observing the lion, feeling the fragile bond of trust forming in silence. A life had been spared today, fragile and raw, and Amir knew this moment, quiet, tense, and full of understated emotion, would linger with him forever. After the struggle, the young lion lay beneath a lone fig tree, his golden fur matted with dust, streaked with sweat, and dotted with faint abrasions. The afternoon sun slanted through the branches, casting dappled light across the clearing. Amir approached slowly, careful to maintain a respectful distance. The lion's amber eyes followed him with wary curiosity, muscles tensed but no longer rigid with panic. Amir had brought a small tin of water, which he set gently on the earth before the lion. The animal sniffed cautiously, tentative yet curious. Then, with delicate licks, he began to drink, his movements careful and measured. Each sip seemed to restore a little strength, the tension in his shoulders easing with each passing moment. Around them, the savanna hummed softly, cicadas droning in the heat, distant birds calling faintly from the trees, and the wind stirring dry grass in gentle waves. Amir observed, noting the shallow bruises along the lion's flanks and the subtle scratches left by the python's grip. He avoided touching the injured areas, instead letting the lion regain stability at his own pace. He whispered softly, recounting small details of the day, the sun's angle, the distant hills, the path of the riverbed. Occasionally, the lion's ears flicked toward him, a subtle acknowledgement of presence and calm. Hours passed. The lion gradually shifted, raising his head, stretching his limbs, testing the ground beneath his paws. Each movement was careful, deliberate, the body adjusting to freedom after the suffocating grip of the python. Amir kept his voice low, encouraging without pressing, saying only, "Take your time, you're safe now." The sun began to sink, painting the sky with soft oranges and purples. The lion, now steadier on his feet, padded slowly in circles beneath the fig tree, muscles flexing with renewed strength. His breathing grew even, and the tension that had pulled at his form seemed to release into the earth. Occasionally, a soft moan or sigh escaped him, not of pain, but of relief, an almost human sense of gratitude carried in the quiet rustle of breath. Amir sat a short distance away, legs folded, watching in silence. The lion paused, eyes meeting his for a long moment. In that gaze, Amir felt a connection born of respect and care, a fragile trust that could not be forced but only allowed to grow. Dust swirled lightly in the cooling air, and the shadows of the fig trees stretched long across the plain, giving the scene a sense of stillness and timelessness. As evening approached, the lion rose fully to his paws. His movements were cautious yet confident, muscles rippling under golden fur, the faint scar from the python visible as a subtle reminder of the day's peril. Amir remained quiet, understanding that this was the limit of his role, observer, helper, silent companion to a wild life reclaiming its own rhythm. The lion stretched, body elongated and supple, then moved to a nearby patch of grass, lying down with deliberate calm. The breeze carried the scent of earth and dry foliage, mingling with the faint metallic tang of exertion from the earlier struggle. Amir could feel the weight of the moment, a gentle acknowledgement of life restored, a subtle bond that would linger in memory long after the night fell. For the first time since the encounter, the lion closed his eyes, the tension leaving his body completely. Amir whispered once more, a quiet benediction, "Rest now, you're safe." And in the soft rustle of leaves and cooling earth, the savannah seemed to exhale alongside them, carrying the fragile quiet of recovery across the plains. As dusk settled over the savannah, the soft golden light fading to muted purple, Amir noticed movement along the distant ridge. 5 lions emerged slowly from the shadows, their forms lithe and deliberate against the twilight. Their amber eyes reflected the last rays of sun, fixed with intent on the young lion resting beneath the fig tree. Amir froze, taking care to remain unobtrusive. The pride's approach was quiet, almost ceremonial. He could sense the unspoken hierarchy at play, subtle postures, careful spacing, eyes and ears alert to every signal. The young lion, sensing the presence of his kin, lowered his body slightly, a gesture of recognition or perhaps of submission. His tail twitched slowly, the only visible sign of tension remaining in his frame. The adult lions moved with grace and purpose, closing the distance in cautious, measured steps. One of the females, larger and scarred along her flank, paused to sniff the air, then crouched slightly, brushing gently against the young lion's side. Another nudged him softly with her muzzle, a gesture of reassurance. The young lion responded subtly, leaning into the contact, muscles relaxing in stages as the pressure of companionship replaced fear. Amir observed silently, awed by the precision of their movements, the fluidity of their interactions. The savannah around them seemed to hold its breath. Cicadas slowed their song, and distant birds ceased their calls, as if nature itself was attentive to this reunion. The pride circled briefly, positioning themselves around the young lion like guardians, then settled nearby, forming a protective semicircle. The young lion's amber eyes flicked toward Amir once, an almost imperceptible acknowledgement. He did not approach, did not make a sound. The glance was a quiet recognition of the man who had offered help. Amir whispered softly, "It's okay, they're your family now." His voice was low, carrying no command, only assurance. The lion's gaze returned to his pride, following their subtle movements and accepting their presence. The adult lions continued their gentle inspection. One nuzzled the young lion's head, another circled and brushed past, reaffirming boundaries and comfort. Their actions were deliberate, neither hurried nor aggressive, communicating protection, acceptance, and unity. The young lion, once tense and wary, now lay down, rolling slightly in the dust, allowing the adult's presence to reassure him. The wind picked up, rustling the dry grass and stirring the leaves above, carrying the scents of the plain, the subtle tang of earth, the distant aroma of acacia blooms, the faint metallic trace of exertion from the earlier struggle. The pride remained calm, attuned to each other and the environment, demonstrating an intricate social rhythm that Amir could only watch and respect. As the sky deepened into twilight, a quiet sense of belonging settled over the clearing. The young lion rested fully against the protective circle of adults, breathing evenly, muscles relaxed. Amir felt the weight of the moment, the unspoken language of trust and connection between wild animals and a human observer who had intervened just enough to preserve life. The 5 lions shifted slightly, their bodies illuminated by the emerging stars, forming a living tableau of unity, protection, and quiet grace. Amir knew he had witnessed something rare, the restoration of safety, the reaffirmation of family, and the fragile, wordless acknowledgement between human and wildlife that would linger in memory long after the night claimed the savannah. Amir remained at the edge of the clearing, careful not to intrude, yet captivated by the subtle interactions of the pride. The young lion lay nestled among the adults, his amber eyes observing every movement with renewed curiosity and calm. The 5 lions moved with a grace and precision that seemed choreographed, tails flicking in measured rhythm, ears rotating to catch distant sounds, paws pressing softly into the earth. Each movement reinforced connection, communication, and trust within the group. The young lion shifted slightly, testing his muscles, stretching and flexing limbs that had been tensed hours earlier. One of the adult females, scarred along her flank, approached gently, brushing her muzzle along his shoulder and nudging him in quiet encouragement. The lion responded by leaning in, closing his eyes for a brief moment, and releasing a soft, almost imperceptible sigh. The interaction spoke of reassurance and belonging, a language of gestures and touches that Amir could witness but not intrude upon. Amir watched quietly, understanding that his role had evolved. He was no longer the immediate savior, only a silent observer of bonds being rebuilt. He spoke softly once, almost to himself, "You're safe with them." The lion's gaze flicked toward him, calm and unguarded, before returning to the pride. There was no overt recognition, no dramatized gratitude, only the quiet acknowledgement of presence, a subtle, respectful connection between human and wild. The sun dipped low behind distant hills, bathing the clearing in a gentle glow. Dust rose from the lion's fur as they shifted slightly, mingling with the faint scent of dry grass and earth. The wind carried distant calls from the night, a low murmur of hyenas beginning their nocturnal patrol, but the pride remained focused inward, the circle unbroken. Amir noticed the young lion mimicking subtle behaviors, curling his tail around an adult, pressing his head to another, learning the unspoken rules of social cohesion and protection. Occasionally, a soft growl would ripple through the pride, not of threat, but of reaffirmation, a sound that resonated with the rhythm of the land itself. The young lion's chest rose and fell in time, tension fully released now, body relaxed, yet alert. Amir could feel the gravity of the moment, the quiet intelligence of the animals, the depth of their bonds, and the gentle affirmation that he had stepped back at precisely the right time. The night began to settle, stars appearing faintly above the savannah. The pride adjusted their positions, forming a protective semicircle around the young lion. One of the adults nudged him softly, and he leaned into the contact, finally resting fully, a creature at peace within his family's presence. Amir's heart swelled with silent gratitude, for the trust shown, the lives preserved, and the understanding that some connections require patience, respect, and quiet observation rather than words or force. As he rose to leave, Amir felt the soft weight of the moment settle into his memory. The pride moved in slow, deliberate motion, teaching the young lion trust and belonging while demonstrating the elegance of wild life uninterrupted. He whispered one final time, almost a blessing, "Go on, with them, you're home now." The young lion lifted his head briefly, eyes meeting Amir's in a fleeting exchange, then turned back to the protective circle. In that silent bond, Amir felt the profound truth of nature's rhythm, life restored, trust earned, and the fragile poetry of the wild preserved in a single quiet evening. Dawn broke slowly over the savannah, washing the plains in soft shades of pink and gold. The air was cool and still, carrying the faint scent of dew on dry grass and the earthy aroma of the distant riverbed. Amir stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as the pride began to stir. The young lion rose gracefully, muscles stretching with supple precision, eyes alert but calm. One by one, the adult lions followed suit. Their movements were deliberate, synchronized in ways that spoke of unspoken communication and deep familiarity. They circled the young lion briefly, as if to reaffirm their bond, before stepping lightly over the dew-laden grass toward the horizon. Amir stayed back, allowing space, letting the animals reclaim their world. The young lion paused for a moment, glancing back over his shoulder. His amber eyes met Amir's, steady and calm, a fleeting acknowledgement that needed no words. In that glance, Amir felt the quiet resonance of trust. The human intervention had mattered, yet it was time for nature to take its course. The pride moved on, a wave of golden forms blending with the morning light, shadows stretching and dissolving across the plains. The wind carried soft rustles of grass and distant calls of birds, and the faint murmur of the river as it flowed over stones. Amir inhaled deeply, taking in the texture of the savannah, the warmth of sunlight on his skin, the roughness of the earth beneath his feet, the cool brush of morning air. Each detail was alive, a reminder of the wild rhythm that had been momentarily intertwined with his own presence. As the lions disappeared into the rolling hills, Amir felt a profound sense of closure. The young lion had regained strength, returned to the safety of his family, and the circle of life had quietly resumed its balance. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic farewells, only the soft poetry of survival and trust, of lives touched and left untouched, of boundaries respected and bonds silently honored. He knelt briefly, brushing his hands across the grass where the young lion had lain. The earth was cool, the dew clinging to each blade like tiny crystals. "Go on, with them," Amir whispered, his voice barely audible, carried off by the morning breeze. The words felt unnecessary, yet they were a benediction, a final acknowledgement of the day's fragile beauty. The sun climbed higher, gilding the plain in golden light. The horizon seemed endless, stretching into the vastness of the wilderness, filled with possibilities, threats, and quiet wonders. Amir turned slowly to leave, each step heavy with thought yet light with awe. He carried with him the memory of trust earned, of a lion spared, and the grace of a pride moving through the wild, a fleeting, extraordinary gift that would linger in the heart long after the savannah had returned to its steady rhythm. Even as he walked away, the soft impression of paw prints and pawed earth remained, a testament to life, resilience, and the delicate intersections between human compassion and the wild's quiet, enduring power. The pride had gone, but the echo of the moment lingered, a subtle, indelible mark on both land and soul.